I also want to introduce, let me see, so for the government of the District of Columbia that's representing us today, we have Nina Albert. She's the deputy mayor, and we have Ben de Guzman, who is the director of the office I just mentioned, MOAPIA. And now, please don't feel any type of way if I butcher this name, but Japer or Jpierre. How is it pronounced? Yeah, Japer. There you go, Japer Bowles. I was trying to give you a little French accent, but that's fine. That's fine, we'll go with Japer. Thank you, Japer. Japer Bowles is also here, who is the director of the the Mayor's Office on LGBTQIA Affairs. So give them a round of applause for also coming out to help us celebrate the start and the kickoff of QTAPI Week here in DC. Of course, here they are. I just presented them. So if you see them around the room, introduce yourselves, network, say hi. And of course, they are gonna be coming up with some statements shortly. Do I need to run the mic to them or just have them come up and do their thing? Are you ready? Of course, don't look so surprised now, Japer. Come on, you know you're a part of the program. Come on, you can come on up so we can lend you the mic. Well, all right, give a round of applause to Japer, everyone. He's coming up. He's the director of the LGBTQIA office. Thank you.
I have no idea how this microphone works. No, I'm just kidding. Happy Pride Month, everyone. How we doing? Great. Well, I'm the boring part of the conversation. I do just want to express my, continued support for our LGBTQIA+ community, our Asian community. We have a really strong Asian community in the DC region. I would love to have more in DC. So, any way we can create more events in DC, celebrating and highlighting our Asian community, we're here to do that. I really also want to give a shout out to Trang again. She is our advisory chair. She's the first Asian advisory chair committee for the mayor's office of LGBTQ affairs. So that's like really, really, really cool. And also World Pride is coming up. So all of this type of conversation, we're looking to have that and continue it for next year. So thank you for allowing us to be here. Thanks for celebrating for Pride Month. And happy Pride, everyone. It's our month, so happy Pride.
Thank you. Give it up for Japer one more time, everybody. Round of applause, round of applause. Thank you, Japer. And let me tell you something. I just met Japer in person today. We've been, communicating back and forth behind the scenes. But let me tell you something. This man just introduced World Pride 2025. There's a sweat dripping down my back. We're already nervous. No, that's just me. But I just wanted to commend previous experience with World Pride, y'all. 2019, New York City. Get into the footage. But I just want to commend Japer as well. They came today and he just jumped right in with helping us to set up. So thank you again, Japer, for your assistance today. Thank you. Now, Ben de Guzman is gonna do some double representation today. Not only is he on the panel, but he's also, have a few words for us before we start grilling him with some questions. Well, come on up, Ben. Come on up. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you. And as part of the DC contingent who attended New York Pride in 2019, let me just give you snaps. So, who else went up to New York for? Okay.
I know that's right.
I see you. So, I will have plenty to say during the panel. So, all I will do now is read the mayor's proclamation that she promoted regarding Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So, May 2024. Whereas the District of Columbia is greatly enriched by the cultural traditions, ancestry, native languages, and unique experiences of the more than 50 ethnic groups from Asia and the Pacific Islands, and whereas the more than 47,000 Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander residents of the nation's capital make extraordinary contributions to the arts, education, business, healthcare, and other arenas vital to DC culture, health, and prosperity, and whereas AANHPI Heritage Month honors our AANHPI communities for helping to make Washington, D.C. one of the world's strongest, most diverse and vibrant cities, and whereas organizations, government agencies, and the broader community will gather to celebrate the important contributions of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders to our city, the nation, and the world, Now, therefore, do I, the Mayor of Washington, D.C., do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in Washington, D.C., duly signed by Mayor Muriel Bowser.
All right. Woo! Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much, Ben. We'll be definitely getting that proclamation from you soon so we can display it for appropriate purposes. And before we move the program along, Nina Albert, I will need the deputy mayor, if they're here, no, already, never mind. We're gonna move right along. Thank you for the representation. And let's see. Of course, again, Rainbow History Project and Xfinity Center, here we are, and we're gonna be going, here are all the fabulous logos that represent the organizations that are here tonight. Of course, wouldn't be queer, wouldn't be trans, wouldn't be part of the rainbow community without all these colors. Take it in, people. This is what you'll be seeing going through Pride season and all the way into 2025. So these are some of the organizations represented here. I will give you 1 second. There you go, we're gonna do a little transition here. So you will hear from all of our panelists today who are representing all these organizations before I go ahead. So in case y'all don't know who you're a part of, I just want to hear from the Kush DC folks first. Hey, where's the Kush folks? Any Kush folks in the house? Give it up for yourselves, Kush. Give it up for yourselves. There you go. Thank you, Kush. Thank you for the representation. Any folks from Aqua besides Jamie? Any folks from Aqua DC? Aqua, there you go. Give it up for yourself. Thank you for coming on again. KQT, where are the KQT folks? Of course, let's stand and be proud. Apex, where are my Apex persons? Woo! All right, and of course, I wonder if there are any CEP folks in the building. Then we're two persons deep tonight. So I like to say, of course, here he is, and myself representing. I like to say, when you come to our stomping grounds, just like Ben just mentioned about 5 or so years ago, come to our stomping ground, you see how we represent deep and how we roll. But that's for another time as well. I'm going to get into the timeline here. So in the year 1987. So what you're seeing on your screen is Apex. So of course, this is the Asian and Lesbians. So it was first formed as decals, right? So that's the DC Asian and Lesbians organization, and it has transitioned now to becoming fully called Apex. And it's formed and participated in the 1987 March on Washington. So, of course, the March on Washington has been very pivotal and cataclysmic in the movement and the advancement of social justice and voting rights and equity movements in this country, right? So we then transitioned to having, in the year 1994, so we have Atul and Yasir. They meet during the Stonewall 25th anniversary celebration in New York City. And again, backtrack to World Pride 2019, double that 25 to make it 50, right? So 25, and then you double it to 50, you got World Pride that year. But they decided to start a group similar to NYC's SALGA, South Asian Lambda Gay Association in DC. Full side note, we have at Caribbean Equality Project, we have one of SALGA's members who helps to lead our support group, which Mohammed will talk about, right? So they help to lead our support group in New York City, or Queens support group, which, by the way, they're having a picnic right now as we speak in New York. But I will keep it moving on now to, as the timeline progresses, we have Aqua. Of course, one of our co-organizers tonight is from Aqua. That's Jamie. And in the year 1997, so of course, they are their names, the Asian Queer United for Action. It was founded as an organization run by queer Asians for queer Asians and participated in the Capitol Pride for the first time. So again, we have representatives here. You're gonna be hearing a lot about Pride, World Pride, Capitol Pride, and all those activations. As the timeline progresses, here we are, 2015, only 9 short years ago, y'all. 9 short years ago. It feels like a whole eternity, especially because of the pandemic, right? So only 9 years ago, we had Caribbean Equality Project formed in 2015. So of course, the founder and executive director sitting in our presence, we have the honor of having some founding members here tonight with the organizations. So of course, this was founded in response to anti-LGBTQ+ hate, which he was involved in a very incident that helped to spark the movement that is now Caribbean Equality Project. So that's part of our timeline here, our nifty little timeline here. And as the timeline progresses, we now have KQTDC coming into play. So if we're 9, can anybody guess how old KQTDC is? Anybody? Quick math. Anybody? Somebody? Nobody? I hear 8. Do I hear 8? 8 for 100, Alex. Thank you. There we go. So of course, KQT, Korean American Rainbow Group, that was their former name. And they evolved to becoming KQTDC. They were founded in October 2016. So about maybe like 4 months after we were formed a year ago for Curb Inequality, a year earlier, sorry, for Curb Inequality Project. And it's they were formed after the first Korean American Rainbow Parents Group, that was their first name as well, CARP, at a seminar in Fairfax, Virginia. For those who are not from the DMV, that's literally across the bridge, right? So, and with that, you have, although we just tracked the formation and the progression of the history of these 5 organizations of our QTAPI coalition here represented tonight.
So thank you, Theo. We have the honor of being quite a broad spectrum of member organizations as part of this QTAPI coalition. And it's hard to believe that some of us have been around for over 30 years. Right? You take a look at this room right now, some of you aren't even 30 years old. And so these organizations are effectively older than you are, believe it or not. But you know, it's a testament to how far we've come in the last 30 or so odd years. For some of us, 8, 9, 10-ish, right? None of the work would have been possible without the people that you see sitting right in front of you. And you'll hear more about their stories this evening. But what we also wanted to emphasize today is that the work continues, right? The fact that you're here today, the fact that you're seeing more queer API visibility out in the community is because of the people sitting in front of you, and it's still continuing today. And so we wanted to briefly talk about some of the things that we're doing, especially for this year. We've not, in our 30 years, at least to my knowledge, there has been collaboration. Typically we collaborate for Pride season, but in this last year and a half, I'd say we've really stepped up what it means to be a coalition, what it means to work together as these 5 independent organizations to do something great and impactful. And so as part of that, we've applied to grant funding, and what we're responsible for in the next year or so, especially in the lead up to World Pride and doing some of the exciting plans we're not ready to reveal yet, we're on the hook for doing a survey of who are the queer Asians of DC, right? What do they look like? Where do they come from? What do they believe? And so that will be going out soon. Theo is also part of our survey and educational focus group, and so we expect to see that rolled out perhaps in June for Pride Month. The second thing we're on the hook for is educational programming. Yes, we'll do educational programming through the lenses of our individual organizations, but collectively as an organization, we decided to focus on what it meant to do intersectional work through an API lens. And so in the fall of this year, you'll see flyers and workshops that will promote a workshop around what anti-racism, anti-Black training, especially through an API lens, looks like, and that'll be offered free for anybody that wants to participate. And lastly, what you're seeing tonight and what has been alluded to is this is the start to a tradition that we'd like to build in DC. May is API Heritage Month, June is Pride Month. There ought to be a bridge between the two. And so we are establishing the weekend after Black Pride and the weekend preceding Capitol Pride as the bridge between the two. Okay.
He's responding to the survey.
And yeah, some of it will overlap with Capitol Pride and World Pride's festivities next year, but lots of exciting things to come for sure. To talk about a little bit some of the coalition work we've been doing, right? We have our 5 queer orgs. I think what's more important is that we collaborate with people that we don't often reach, right? Most of the people in this room are queer or queer allies. What we often don't reach are the straight allies that don't know that we exist, right? We're a minority within a minority. So it's our impetus to try to expand ourselves beyond just our small little circle. And so part of that is working with the DC AAPI Coalition, which is a coalition of Asian Pacific Islander orgs that spans the gamut of professional development to ethnic advocacy to Asian advocacy. And so that we had an historic turnout last week, 2 weeks ago, at Luna Hall, just right across the street, with about 200 people showing up for a random happy hour on Monday night. And so that gives us broader exposure to that, right? That's our straight allies that typically don't come to our queer events. In partnership with that, right, we're trying to do a lot more in the diplomatic community. I can't announce some of the plans that we have yet, but they will be coming up sometime this summer. But in our more recent history, Mohammed's brother actually was our representative at the Organization of American States. In fact, the first time ever that building has hosted a pride ceremony of that size. And kind of a surprise, thank you. Kind of surprise for all of us, because you take a look at the coalition member states that are part of the OAS, and like 2/3 of them are queer affirming. So for them to have that exposure to our queer family, and specifically our queer API and Indo-Caribbean family, is very important. And so those are the things that you have to look forward to from QTAPI in the upcoming year. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it back to Theo, who will start the panel.
One second, let me pay this back. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you giving that insightful input as to some of the activities that our coalition is doing right now as a collective. I also want to take a moment just to mention, quick shameless plug here. Please, when we reach out to the different groups, whether you're a part of this coalition right now or looking to become a part of our nice handy dandy collective, when we share some of these activations or surveys, tonight's event, future things that we're doing for Pride and other AAPHNI month activities, and so on and so forth, please share them. Please send them to someone who you know or may be interested in participating with us, so that way we can spread the word about the work that we're doing here in the DMV. It goes without saying that this history that you're about to learn, it needs to be shared and spread beyond the organizations represented here tonight. Alrighty, can I get an agreement on that? We good? Yes? Can I get some nods? Yes, Derek, thank you. More food outside if we wanna keep you awake, we wanna keep you activated and hydrated. So please run out and get some more if you'd like before I start the panel. And as I'm about to start this panel, I would, instead of reading some of the biographies and going through the rigmarole or the process of talking about these five folks, I will give them the mic, which they already mic'd up individually, but they will have the mic to themselves to share about who they are and speak about their organizations and with some guided questions from us. But I know they'll have the space to talk intimately about the passion behind the work, the reason for the work, the reason why we're here tonight, and what keeps them going. I find that when you find that why, it is an essential part to keep you going every day. Whether you're active, you're organizing in a nonprofit space, etc., or you're going through your daily job or your small business that you own or your business that you own, period. That why is always important. So that will be a part of what I want to ask our panelists tonight. Some of the history we know because we know why the organizations were formed, but why? Why 9 years later? Why 30 years later? Why 10 years later this work keeps going? Because of some of these representatives tonight. So of course we have Anchaleeya Thompson. You can give it up for them as we introduce them. Anchaleeya Thompson, she's a part of the steering committee of Apex, and also one of the persons who helped us to organize tonight's menu. So if you find something that you like, you can thank Anch. Give it up for Anch. Yes. Thank you, Anch. Oh, and one of the things I wanted to ask the panelists as they go along, I would love to hear the nationality that you're representing as well, the countries from which you hail. That helps to add to the diversity and the rich history of the different organizations that you're representing tonight. So, and we'll have time to talk about that as well. Give it up for Lesley Kingston, please. They're the former chairperson for Kush DC with he, him pronouns. They're here tonight. And of course, Ben de Guzman. They are the inaugural co-chair of Aqua. Give it up for Ben. Give it up for Ben. He, him pronouns. Of course, we have, I'll talk about Kate Shim real quickly. She, her. She is the founder for KQTDC. Give it up for Kate. And of course, last but certainly not least, we have Mohammed Q. Amin. They're here as the founder and executive director of Caribbean Equality Project. Please give it up for my colleague, Mohammed Q. Amin. Thank you, thank you. All right, so I wanted to get into some of the questions for tonight. Heejun, before we go ahead, I want to bring up my colleague Heejun. Come on up, Heejun, go ahead. Come on up real quickly. You'll be fine, Heejun, come on up, come on up. Hi everyone, Heejun, for those who don't know him, say hi to Heejun. Hi. So, Heejun is probably part of our technical direction here tonight for this nice handy dandy QR code. I might wear glasses, but I try not to be a nerd. So I'm gonna ask Heejun to explain what they have created for us. Heejun.
So if you have any question for the panelists, you can actually use this QR code, and then you can actually enter your questions through the questions on the bottom, just so that the people can continuously asking or thinking about questions, what they want to ask for each panelist or the collective panelists. And then we can collect all the questions later, and then we'll ask them. Thank you.
Thank you, Heejun. Give it up for Heejun one more time. They were quite essential in getting tonight's order of activities ready. So please go ahead, scan the QR code. I'll try to make that available throughout the night as well, so you can submit your questions. You know, if you want to give us feedback, that's fine, but mainly questions first. So save the criticisms for later. No, but please submit some questions so we can ask our panelists while we have them physically here in our space, right? And, you know, especially if you're not comfortable with asking them out loud, we can do the asking for you. I think I'm a loud enough mouthpiece for the entire room. Yes, yes. All right, I am going to go ahead. So we're going to go to the panel discussions sections right now. Give me 1 second here. Let me get to my notes. All righty. Let's see. I will start with, who do I want to go first? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's start with Kate. Hi, Kate. How are you? You good? Alrighty. Can folks hear Kate? I'm not sure. Do I need to run the mic to them? How's this? You're good? Alrighty. I'm gonna have to lend this microphone to Kate. Alright, the first question to Kate I'm gonna ask is, there was another mic? Right, there's another microphone available. Oh, it's right behind. There's one available for Mohammed. You have just flip up or flip down. There you go. So,
hello?
Good, thank you, Kate. So, Kate, you can share that mic among you three or you two over there, and these gentlemen can share theirs over here. Alrighty. So, of course, I want to touch on the founding and the formation of the organization. Kate, right? Can you share the story behind the founding of your specific organization? So, I'm going to say KQT, because we know that's who Kate, that's the organization Kate's representing, and. Yeah, talk about the founding of the organization and what inspired you to create space specifically for LGBTQ plus Asian and Pacific Islander folks.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kate, and I am a proud mom of a gay son. And it was when I found out my son was a gay, and it was totally shocking, and I also denied and I was in disbelief, and then as I continue to grow with this community, it was I found out how wrong I was, and how I was judgmental about the people, and I needed a support from I needed support myself, right, to really, because I love my son so much, and he was always same person, when he was gay, he's not a different person, right? So, but I still had to go through all my journey, finding about my, it's all this disbelief, and so I reached out, to my friend who was an activist, and. Actually in the beginning I was really hard, so my husband really supported me, he's here, HK, and he sent me so much article about the accepting moms, right, all the, PFLAG moms, and then I started to read about those things, and I had a lot of friends already too, but I just could not believe about my son. I didn't think my son would be gay. And when I, slowly, accepted my son, I also reached out to the community, like one of the Korean peace activists in New York, and asked her if she knew anybody, any Korean parents who can help or who can talk and then build some community. So that's how we started. That's Clara Yun, you might know, like from New York. So that's the person I reached out, and then when she gave me the number, I called her right away. That day, and we cried, we talked, and we were so happy that we found each other. And then she was coming to the DC for the P-Flag National. So that's when we met, and then we met the API parents like Masha, Izumi, and Rosetta. And a few days later, I met also Kingston. And so, as I found out about this community, I really needed, Koreans are very bad. I mean, there like a lot of them are homophobic and Christian. So I really thought it would be good to form like the Rainbow Group with Clara. So that's how we started.
Thank you, Kate. Give it up for Kate real quickly. And also, while you're applauding, give it up for organizations like P-Flag, for the parents who are supporting this movement. Go ahead and keep the applause going. Give it up for organizations like those that, with the parents who definitely choose to step up and represent those among us who are queer and trans and are part of the rainbow community. Because, without some of that good support, some of this work wouldn't be possible. So thank you for that response, Kate. You can go ahead and take the same question, Anj, and I'll repeat it just for emphasis. Can you share the story behind the founding of Apex and what's your inspiration?
Okay, sure. Apex had its beginnings in, 1987 when it was Decal, and then it went through 2 iterations of a branding and name change. Then it became Asian Pacific Islander Queer Sisters. And that was for the female, for lesbians to gather and, find camaraderie, find people that identified with their cultures, and to also find a safe space for them to be who they are, and also to come out. And because in the Asian community, it is really hard to come out and to find a safe space where you feel accepted. And so it became Asian Pacific Islander Queer Sisters. And then in 2017, there was another name change because we wanted to be more inclusive. We felt like Sisters was kind of exclusive because it left out the gender non-conforming members of our community. And so we became Queer Society. So now we are known as Asian Pacific Islander Queer Society, and which encompasses everyone in the queer spectrum and people that are gender non-conforming, but we do have a female-centric core, and we do embrace that, and so that is the history of Apex, and I have been on the steering committee since 2017. I started in 2015. I joined Apex in 2015, 2 years after I moved here to DC, and at that time I was looking for a safe space to come out and meet people who were like me, because I lived in the Midwest, and I didn't meet very many Asians out in the Midwest, and so I grew up not identifying with being Asian. And so coming here, seeing so many Asians, I just had to connect with the community, and so I'm really glad that I was able to join and to become a part of Apex.
Thank you so much for that response, Anj. Definitely. I like how there was a quick transition from the S representing sisters, that sorority, to becoming society, to be more expansive. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask the country that you represent the most, and what's your inspiration with continuing Apex's work?
I'm from Thailand. I was born there. I came here when I was 5 years old. And my thoughts of continuation of Apex is I think we need to get out, do more outreach, get out there and meet more people, get our name out there, because I feel like right now we're in a lull. Our membership is waning, and our board is down to two steering committee members when we have the capacity for 5. So we need additional leaders in our organization. So I'm wanting us to become more active, doing more things, and coming up with more activities that people care about and want to join in on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Anj. Kate, can you say the country you're representing, please, before I move on?
Yes, I'm from Korea, South Korea, and I also want to add, I only talked about CARP, actually. I want to add about KQTDC, because from CARP, when we had a Korean Rainbow Parent Seminar, because we had a lot of supporters in DC, and we also, we had a fundraising event in DC, in Fairfax, Virginia, where a lot of API individuals came out. Actually, the Korean also, like Kingston and other like the non-Korean individuals came out and supported us. And then it was very successful. And then that's when we start to see the Korean American individuals in DC area. And then also one of the events I went was Aqua DC 20 years history event, where I knew Ninad, who was also Aqua member, and he brought a lot of Korean individuals to us. Actually, so he's like a godfather to KQTDC, because through this kind of activity, we were able to connect, and then he'll bring many Korean members. So after that, we also after the October 2016, we met every month. As a local, whether it was only 4 of us, which is like a Ryan Che, and then Ryan Che's husband Tony Smith, and then HK and us met every month. Sometimes it was only 4, and then it kept growing because of events like this, or like a friend like Dina brought us. We kept growing, and then so after 2018, there was a big conference. There were like 300, people attending, like Korean Identify and the parents. So it was so successful, we named ourselves as a KQTDC.
There you go. Snaps for that, snaps for that. Good job. Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you. I wanted to touch back on something that Anj mentioned just now. Anj said that her organization has space for more leadership to be a part of that growing body. And, again, shameless plug, this is also an opportunity for folks who are interested in Apex's work or any of the orgs represented here tonight, their work, for you to get plugged in. Alrighty, don't just let this history fall on deaf ears tonight. This is also a chance for you to get plugged in into the inspirational work that's being done. So if you're interested in any of the roles or becoming a leading member of these organizations, please, of course, connect with the coalition and connect with the members you see here tonight. Alrighty, I wanted to get the mic pass now to Lesley, I believe. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Lesley. I want to ask you the same question as we're doing the introductory bit. You can start by letting folks know who exactly you are, and then you can start with the founding and the formation, and what's your continuing inspiration.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Lesley Kingston. I am also Kate's gay son. I'll tell you, we all are Kate's kids.
Yes.
The first day that I got into activism, the first meeting I had was with Kate. And so it's sort of a reunion, a very happy reunion. And I call her mom, actually. And the reason I do that is because once I had gotten into activism, there were a lot of people that were looking for family, right? Their parents were rejecting them. And I would introduce them to these moms, Kate, Clara, Marcia, Lauren. And the message would always be the same. Till your parents can stand up for you and be there for you, we will be your parents. So thank you, Kate, for that. And thank you for being all our moms.
Thank you, Kate.
Kush DC, first, for the Kushers in here, happy birthday. We are 30 years old. Congratulations.
Come on, decades.
Okay, one more time. Can we all get a big applause for 30 years? That is phenomenal. You know, organizations come and go. For you to sustain a community for 30 years is a big deal.
Yes.
And a lot of that has to do with the community members, but also the folks that stay in leadership and volunteer their time. So I want to say big up to Anjana, who's representing Kush's board. Thank you so much, Anjana, for continuing to do the work. You know, Kush really formed to build a community and a chosen family. We're all Asian folks, and one thing that we have in common is that we don't show up by ourselves, right? We show up with our parents, we show up with our aunties, our uncles, our grandparents. A lot of us have had second parents, right? Cousins, older brothers and sisters. And that is really why Kush has got together and has really sustained itself. The founders, they found themselves in New York, they met each other, and they said, oh, there must be like more of us, right? And the way they built their community, they were very industrious. They went around and asked people, right? Do you know a gay? Do you know a lesbian? Right? Like, just really, like, go from person to person. Do you know people that we can bring into the fold? They even put like an ad out, like in the local newspaper, the Washington Blade, saying like, you know, we're a community we're trying to build. And guess what? The lesbians and the gays and the trans folks, like, they all started showing up. And a community was born. In the beginning, it was a lot of potlucks, right? That resembled the potlucks that our families had back homes. And there was a lot of chit chat that was happening. And then that turned into like us representing ourselves in pride. And I've heard, like, you know, a lot of this is oral history. Thank you, Rainbow History Project. People, they were saying like the first times that they were marching in pride with our lungis and our saris and our kurtas, people were, and you know, the watchers, the folks who showed up, they were in shock. They've never seen anything like this, right? So these people were really pioneers. And 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, it's not what it is today, right? It is a time where you could lose your job, you could lose your family, you could end relationships, you could have trouble in schools. So these people really, really put it on the line to create a community. So creating community takes a long time to do. And then sustaining the community also is a great effort. I found Kush because I was looking for community. Mm-hmm. I needed community. I didn't realize I needed community, but I was looking for community. And I discovered them in a social setting, and I was like, who the hell are these people? Like, there were so many of them, and for me, they were like unicorns, because I had never seen so many South Asian, queer, and trans people, right? And I got involved because they were celebrating their 21st year anniversary. And I am a marketing and salesperson, so I said, I'm like a marketing thing together for us. And I did a video that turned out to be part of DC Oral Histories Project, and is like, we now exist like in the DC archives. But this video was just something that I used my iPhone, and I went around to people's homes and parks, and I had conversations with them about their involvement with Kush. And I'm kind of nosy, so I asked them about their own personal life. And the stories that I heard just broke my heart. There were people who, trigger warning, I'm talking about suicidal ideation, there were people who attempted suicide because they could not deal with their own identity because they knew their families and their communities were going to reject them. There were people that could not finish college. They could not finish school because they were so depressed. And people that had to marry, like genders that they didn't want to be married to, right? And create families. And when you hear these stories, you can't just sit idly by. You have to jump in, right? So I jumped in. I had no intention of doing anything other than just creating this little video. I ended up being on the board. And it was the biggest blessing. So thank you for telling folks to join, because it will be one of your biggest blessings too as you join this community. And in the time that I was there, like very actively working, giving my life to Kush DC and the community, I realized a lot of things. And what I realized, and this is the inspiration for the work, right? Mm-hmm. We're not all made the same.
True.
We all don't have the same level of resilience. We all don't have the same level of support. We all don't have the same ability to grow socially and economically, right? A lot of us struggle. And it is really, really important that communities and organizations and governments, right, exist to support the folks that are the most marginalized in our community. So the reason I am an activist and the reason that Kush DC exists and we all exist really should be to center our work around the most marginalized people and create a space where each and every person, even if it's an identity that you don't fully understand, you accept them. They become part of your family. You support them in any way that you possibly can. We can't do it alone. So we need each other. And I'm so happy to hear about this coalition. And I hope this coalition grows. And I'm so happy that the mayor's office, who we've done a lot of work together, is with us today and continues to do this. I just want to tell one short story. I'm going to hand the mic over to you. We did a film screening in Chinatown. It was a brilliant filmmaker named Sonali Gulati who made a movie called I Am. And the mayor's office was very kindly to host us and pay for it and do all the advertising and support the event. And I was very nervous because it was the first time that I was ever going to be talking to a community that's outside of our own queer community. Like just random people were just showing up, like 175 people, right? I was very nervous about it. And I was told, like, visibility, you just showing up is important, right? Like that's all you just need to do. There's nothing you can say or nothing you can do, say right or wrong. You just existing is important. At the end of the screening, we were all walking, and we were all standing there, Kate, myself, the filmmaker, the mayor's office folks, we're all like shaking hands. This woman comes up to me and says, I'm a doctor. I live in Atlanta. This came in my social media feed. And I canceled all my appointments. I booked a flight. I came here because I need community. Can you imagine? She canceled everything and showed up because she needed community. And that would not have been possible if it wasn't for me being able to be visible, right? Me having my mom, Kate, over there, and us having the mayor's office supporting our initiatives and sponsoring us so we can create avenues for people who are looking for family, looking for survival, looking for community. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You can give it up for Lesley. Give it up one more time. Pass the mic to Ben for me, please. Ben, I want you to take one more question, Lesley. Country.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thank God for ChatGPT, okay? because I didn't know. I mean, I kind of knew, but I would have just been guessing.
You didn't know where you're from?
No, I know where I'm from. I'm talking about South Asia that we're representing. So I'm from India. I'm from Tamil Nadu. Can we get a little shout out to Tamil Nadu?
All right.
Yes.
Give it up.
So Kush DC represents 8 different countries: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, Afghanistan. And would you believe this? Thank you, ChatGPT. There are 750 languages spoken in South Asia.
Yes.
Amazing, right? And we support the South Asian community here in DC, but as we all know, this is a very transitory kind of place, so people come in and out. Mm-hmm. So, but our community members actually live abroad, like our founders. One of our founders lives in Portugal right now, still involved with Kush DC. Mm-hmm. We have members in all parts of the country, and folks that have returned to their home of origin. Yasser. Yeah, he's in Portugal, having a grand old time, okay? So our members are all over the place. And the thing is, and I'll talk about this a little later, all of our members are all over the place. We need to think bigger. The coalition needs to get much bigger because they need us. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Give it up for Lesley one more time. Ben, I'm going to ask you something real quickly, but again, plugging into what Lesley just said, and Lesley, I hope your members get here for a year from now for World Pride. That's the whole purpose of World Pride. So, JPER, yes, connect please, so you can get folks from Kush International to come for World Pride next year. Thank you for that. Again, with the organizations that are here, please see how you can connect with our panelists tonight to get more plugged into the work that you're doing here in the DMV and I guess across the world. Tell me something. Now, Ben, I want you to start with the inspiration for your work with the organization, and then give us a backtrack in history.
Gosh. So I am technically here doing double duty. thinking about both AQUA, Asian Pacific Islander Queers United for Action, as well as the Mayor's Office of Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs. My inspiration is born out of fear. You think about the timeline that we showed before, and I'll make that connection later, but 1987, when Moapia started, I was, well, I won't tell you. But to think about, and I actually want, especially the people who are younger, to think about like what it could have been like back then to be a teenager, to be a 20-something, to be a 30-something, in the shadow of homophobia, in the shadow of a conservative political administration, in the shadow of AIDS, and to think about what it would be like to move through the world in that way. And that's the world that I was given. And so the inspiration for me has always been so that other people don't have to put up with the bullshit that I had to. And so that if we can make the world a better place for those who come after us, that is the least that we can do. But that said, 1987, there was a young Chinese-American social worker who was just fresh at the Office of Latino Affairs. I don't know whether he was openly gay or not. But that's the through line. He was plucked out of that office and became a special assistant to Mayor Barry, specifically thinking about Asian Pacific Islander affairs back then. So he is the first person who stood up that office. Cut to 1997, I always joke there's another longtime AQUA member here in the audience who I will not call out, but neither he nor I are co-founders of AQUA, even though sometimes we are mistaken to be. But I had just moved here in 1997. They tabled at Pride. I grabbed a flyer, or what was a flyer back in 1997. I called a landline, because we called landlines back then, and that was the information that was available. And my cousin, who was my roommate at the time, laughed at me. She's like, "Oh, are you calling Aquaman?" Because I was looking for community, right? And little did I know that one of the other people that I had met when I first moved to DC in '97, when I was looking for community, was an older gentleman who was at the Smithsonian at the time, whose name was Marshall Wong, but who 10 years ago was that social worker who was plucked out of the Office of Latino Affairs to begin the Mayor's Office of Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs. So I had forgotten, that he was that person. But eventually we reconnect. Well, we had always been friends because I insisted that we remain friends even when he moved back to LA. But that's the through line. Like, I came to DC, I was looking for community. I was just a gaybie at the time. I was 25, so you can do the math. But I was, looking for community, looking for my place in the world. I was fortunate enough to be able to be out. I was fortunate enough to be able to call an Aquaman and not feel a kind of way about it, and to be out at work. But I think that has always been, and I began a career that ultimately put me into the nonprofit arena, the civil rights arena, where I've been able to be part of very critical work in the Asian Pacific Islander community, in the LGBT community. Actually, one of the things, I was with the National Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance for many years, and one of the things that I will be most proud of is the work that we did with parents. That lei that you're wearing was one that we made for all of the participants at our Hawaii convention, but the parents took it upon themselves, and so it actually has a particular meaning now that it is for parents. I am not a parent, but I wear it from time to time, so don't tell anyone. But I have been with the mayor's office for 6 years now, and so to be the gay director of the Mayor's Office of Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs is actually kind of cliche at this moment. Because from Marshall to my predecessor to me, but to be able to make those connections is something that I get to do and I will forever be proud of. So, but that's the connection between Moambia and Aqua. Well, ultimately, I will just say that two things. One is when I became involved with Aqua, I helped us work with a consultant to form Aqua's structure. And then when we had our first elections, I was one of our first duly elected co-chairs. Mm-hmm. So we helped bring Aqua to the next level. So to be able to see what Aqua is doing now is really great. And then I'll just end with the question that you asked. I am a proud son of Filipino immigrants. So I was born in this country, but so that's who I am.
Thank you for that, Ben. Like I said before at the beginning of the panel, I deliberately omitted reading these biographies aloud because I wanted you to hear the biographies and personal story tied to their bios from the speakers themselves. I think that's a better way of just presenting them to you all, right? And for you all to get to know them through the organizations that they represent as well. And thank you for painting that pathway for us. I think you have, just like with Kate, have provided a lot of mentorship along the way. So I know many of us don't claim parenting, but I know we've had a lot of people who will, especially for the more fine-tuned and fine wine persons among us, let me say that. I know they've had a chance to mentor folks along the way and to provide some guidance, especially for this work that keeps continuing throughout the years. So thank you again for that rich pathway to where we are now in 2024. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Amin. Now, of course, I could read his bio if I wanted to. Maybe I'll be petty. Maybe I should? No. He has, of course, much to say about Curb Inequality Project, and in order to do that, I'm going to turn the mic over to them to do their bit. They're going to show you what they're about.
Thanks, Theo. I feel like we've been sitting here for a while, just talking and listening and learning. So before I introduce myself, I want to introduce Curb Inequality Project. And we're gonna do it with a quick 1-minute video. So Theo, if you don't mind just playing this video and turn the volume on, please. Sorry, it's not doing it justice.
Sorry about the audio. Let me see. Oh, give me 1 second. Is it?
The one that we're connected to? Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I'll speak about Curb Inequality Project's work. I wanted to share visually what the organization does. As we're talking about oral histories and storytelling, part of the work that I do with Curb Inequality Project is to curate that history. Curb Inequality Project was founded in 2015 in response to anti-LGBTQ hate violence, particularly an incident that my brother, my partner, and I survived. And that incident took place in 2013. And at the time, I was currently organizing social spaces. I was sort of like organizing fetes, I was organizing pride contingents, doing a lot of visibility work, but usually during Pride Month, not like year-round. And after we were attacked, we were forced to reconcile with this fact that this incident of hate took place in our community. This, just pause it. It's a bit distracting. This incident of hate took place in our community, the community that I live and work in, and also the fact that we were now forced with this legal case that we had no money for. And then the emotional trauma, the violence that we experienced, physical and emotional, and needed counseling to heal from that. And it took my family and I about 2 years to really heal from that moment. And in 2015, that's when I founded the Caribbean Equality Project. I like to say I turned trauma into activism. I didn't go to school to learn how to be an activist. I did none of those things. But I knew that community was important, and I also had to really define community for myself. I've never really been a believer of defining things for other people, so I had to create what that looks like for myself. 9 years later, we are still one of the only Caribbean LGBTQ immigrants' rights organization in New York City. We went from being all volunteer-led during the pandemic to having paid staff. I'm the first full-time paid executive director of the organization.
Yes, yes.
Your applause, that's good.
We currently have 3 other part-time paid staffers. We have 9 community advocates who are also paid, and we have about 20 to 35 volunteers. They are a part of our community action team, and they help to mobilize a lot of the work that we do. So when I think about Caribbean Equality Project's work, I don't necessarily think about it from an I perspective. I may have been the founder, but I think about it from a we perspective. And I didn't introduce myself intentionally because I wanted to talk about the organization's work first. But my name is Mohammed Q, Amin. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. I'm the descendant of indentured laborers. My ancestors were trafficked to the Caribbean. My Indian ancestors were trafficked to the Caribbean to work on the plantation, particularly to fill the labor gap after our counterparts, our formerly enslaved, African enslaved counterparts were freed. Today, New York City, Florida, and the DMV area remains the largest Indo-Caribbean diaspora. So part of my identity, I like to think of Audre Lorde when she said, "We do not live single issue lives," and I think of activism in that way as well. Our race, our ethnicity, our religion, our families, our immigrant status, all of these things play a role in how we navigate this world and how people see us and how they value it and how we experience love for ourselves and others.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Give it up for our panelists for the history that they painted for us so far. Thank you so much for that introduction. And definitely for the audio that you could not hear tonight, CaribbeanEqualityProject.org. Find us anywhere across social media, particularly on YouTube, right? That's where you get some of this visual and auditory history as well for the organization. I want to, since Mohammed is still holding the mic, I wanted to move to the aspect of our program about what are some of the key milestones or achievements for your organization over the years. And again, for the video that we were just attempting to play, that helps to put our history in a nutshell in terms of 9 years worth of work. So we have, we have an expanded work gamut of work that we've done, and Mohammed can also speak to that, who's also knee-deep in the work right now in New York. So what are some of the key milestones or achievements of your organization over the years?
I think milestones are very hard for me because I look at them differently. I think first, starting and existing to where we are today, having paid staff is a big deal. So many, as you said earlier, so many nonprofits, they have great intentions and they have community that needs them. But because of leadership dynamics, power and control, politics, sometimes they lose sight of the purpose, the foundation of the organization and the community it serves, and then slowly it kind of dissolves, right? And I think there's like 30 years of history being represented in this conversation today. But for Caribbean Equality Project, in 2019, after War Pride, I made the intentional decision that I was going to focus full-time on Caribbean Equality Project. And I was also really burnt out. I was so exhausted. In fact, after War Pride, I turned my phone off and I did not respond to anything for like a month. And I was that exhausted because War Pride was so much. And Theo made a joke earlier about a sweat. It was really exhausting. And our contingent part, which was part of that video, we had close to 3,000 people that marched with Caribbean Equality Project in War Pride. We had the third largest contingent in the entire parade. And many of our friends from parts of the Caribbean that still don't have Pride came to New York to experience Pride for the first time. So when I think about milestones for the organization, having paid staff is really important. Support groups. The first program that we started was Unchained. We have a 9-year running support group in New York City for Afro and Caribbean LGBTQ plus people. In 2022, we actually added a second chapter. So we have one chapter is in Richmond Hill, Queens. Another chapter is in Flatbush, Brooklyn. So we have this particular group meets twice a month, so it's bi-monthly. It's bi-weekly. And community are able to come to it. Our work ranged from doing legislative advocacy. Just last year, we have been fighting to make Diwali a holiday in New York City for over 10 years. That fight goes back to 3 decades, but we finally was able to make Diwali a holiday in New York City. And I remember at a press conference last year, someone asked, why is an LGBTQ organization involved in Diwali? And I said, because queer and trans people exist in the education system and they deserve to spend time with their family and their holidays as well.
So what do you think makes the outfits?
Right?
What do you think makes the outfits for Diwali? Sorry, it's a stereotype.
Not all queer trans people work in sweatshops. I think like, things like the outfits, they make us who we are, right? But at the heart of it, particularly for New York City, like there's so many queer and trans educators that have to, and very much like the students, they're forced between an education and their faith. And that's why Caribbean Equality Project really got involved with that bill. We do a lot of civic engagement work. Year-round, we have a campaign called Mash Up the Vote. And year-round, we register people to vote. Like, voting is so important. I think someone said, Ben, you said, imagine in 1987 when we were living in a very conservative time. Like, I feel like I don't have to imagine that. I feel like we're living it now, right? We might have laws to protect us, but these laws don't protect Black and brown, queer and trans people when we experience violence. They just become enacted in the policy system, in the court system. So, if you are eligible to vote, please go out and vote in your local elections this year. We also during the pandemic, so many undocumented members of our community lost their jobs. They were the first to be fired, laid off. They were the first to start to experience food insecurity. They did not qualify for any government aid, any type of unemployment insurances. Many of them experienced eviction. In 2021 or 2022, we were able to raise over $85,000, and we distributed that money to over 255 undocumented LGBTQ asylum seekers of our community. We also started. And we also started our food justice program, and we had no idea how to run a food justice program, but we knew our community was hungry. They were telling us they were hungry. And we also we still don't have a physical space. We share space with 2 different organizations, but we didn't have a physical space because it wasn't safe to gather. So we started to use parks, and we started to set up public food distributions. And we knew that we didn't want to create a target. This was the gay pantry. Those are the gay hungry people, right? Because we weren't the only ones hungry. We weren't the only ones experiencing food insecurities. So we created these bi-weekly pantries that started to serve over 400 to 500 people every 2 weeks. And that's how we were able to incorporate LGBTQ people a part of that process so they can also have culturally responsive groceries. So milestones are very hard. I say all of that to say milestones are hard. But I also think today, and this week of activities are also milestones. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Give it up for Mohammed. Thank you for painting that journey again to getting us to 2024. I know it has been a very arduous journey for Mohammed and our panelists today to get the organizations to the place where they're at today. I'm going to double back to some audience questions, and then two, I want for folks to talk about self-care. I don't think that it's discussed enough among our people, especially doing this work of organizing and maintaining an organization, coming from all the rich histories that we painted at the beginning of the program, coming down to this very night. I'm going to double back to self-care because I'd like to hear what that looks like for folks who have been doing this work and continue to do this work. Now, Anj, I want you to speak about if you wish, please, just speak about some milestones for Apex and how what are the significance for them? How do they color the organization, so to speak, in 2024?
Some milestones. All right. I think starting in up until 2018 and 2017, when I first got on the steering committee, Apex had gotten into this. We were like an island. We didn't interact with other organizations. We just did our own thing, and we just paid attention to what we were doing. And then some of us went to a leadership conference and then got connected with some of the organizations here that are here today. And that is when the spark ignited again. Because Apex, a long time ago, used to be involved with community and doing community things. And then we veered away from that for some reason and became more isolated. And so in 2017, 2018, that spark ignited again, and we started collaborating with other organizations and doing other things. And during the pandemic, we collaborated with Aqua to do a monthly peer support group, Asian peer support group. And it was a big help to people who felt isolated during the pandemic and who were going through the trauma of the increased discrimination that was occurring to our community. And people were able to have a safe space. We met online, and we still do meet online. We meet every first Thursday of the month. It's via Zoom. And we talk about whatever is on our mind that is the issue of the day, or somebody is having problems with coming out to their family. And if they want advice, we give advice. If they don't, if they want us to just listen and be a caring ear, then that's what we do. We do whatever is needed for a person to feel safe in that space. And so I think that Apex has evolved into becoming an organization that wants to be involved with other organizations and doing things and for our community.
Good. Thank you. Good. Thank you for that. Good. Thank you for that, Anj. Thank you so much for that. You can go ahead and pass it to Kate for me, please. I would like to hear some of the same commentary from you, Kate, about the milestones that KQT is celebrating and what sticks out in your memory.
Okay, so KQTDC is a unique organization in a way because we are with the parents and allies and LGBTQIA individuals together and we only been like less than 8 years, right? And then we have a Hee-jun chair and as a co-chair for the KQTDC, and he started to come from like early 2017, and he's been a chair for a long time. And we, and so we have like but the thing we do is we meet monthly, no matter what, and then sometimes it's somebody's house, or we do have sometimes event, and then we also go to it's any event if there's a LGBTQIA involved, and also Pride, the festival, and then we work together with other groups. But from like beginning, we were only 4. Now our group has like 56 members. Not everybody comes out to the meeting every month, but they're there. There's so many people there, so we share stories. If there's an good article, we share, and then also we go out wherever possible, especially being parents. And because I've been a very active before the LGBT movement. I was already active in social justice movement. So I have a lot of allies. We have a lot of allies who support us and who didn't know about LGBTQIA, the community. Now they are big supporters. So wherever we can kind of like, now we can even go to Chorus Festival, which is just a mainstream Korean American, I guess the festival, and then we can go there, and then we know there are a lot of people supporting us, so they cannot really come and then harass us. Basically, there are a lot of church people. There's and especially like churchgoers and a lot of association head. They're not for the LGBTQIA, but they can really come and then say you cannot be there because of who you are, because of a community, so that's kind of something that being together with parents and the individuals together can do. And then also we'll always defend our children, if some people might need more space because they're still afraid to come out, because of their work situation or anyway, for the society with work or church, right? They're afraid. But at least with our group, with our chat, they can be safe. Mm-hmm. So, and then we will always, be there for them, and then we'll as a group, and we try to grow, but also work with the other groups so we can grow more, and then. Also, we hold like a kimjang event, the kimchi making event. Mm-hmm. So, food is important, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It intertwines very well with our culture, absolutely. Yeah. So, yes. Like I said before tonight with, as you mentioned, food, Kate, with Anch as one of the panelists and representing Apex, did help us to formulate this menu. So, if you please, I hope you love some of the selections that we have. So, can't do anything without food, right? That's a part of our sustenance and maintenance. Ben, I want you to speak to some of the the milestones, some of the inspiring and outstanding milestones in the limited time that we have.
Okay, milestones. Mm-hmm. This is our history lesson. 1988, Hawaii's Supreme Court puts into play the birth of the modern marriage equality movement. So you think about Boston, you think about San Francisco, it really started in Hawaii. When the Supreme Court forced the state to call the question about marriage equality. Unfortunately, they ruled against marriage equality, and a lot of it was born out of kind of white supremacy, really, like people framing the issue as these haoles coming in from the mainland telling us Native Hawaiians what to do with ourselves and our autonomy and our political autonomy, and that we're all gonna have to get married somehow. And I mean, the history of queerness and mahu and Hawaiian culture is really interesting. Kape mahu and look up hina, kumu hina, just to familiarize yourself with that movement. But all of that is to say that during AA and HPA Heritage Month, it's our opportunity to claim all of these movements that have forgotten us somehow, but we actually fucking started. So the next milestone is the 90s, when in the shadow of the founding of DC Black Pride here in DC in 1991, you find a lot of the queer API groups being organized. And it's this sort of alchemy of folks, the API community growing out of the 1965 Immigration and Nationalization Act, which again, thanks to the Civil Rights Act, which allowed us to come to this country in larger numbers. You see the children, like myself, of that act being able to be the children of immigrants, but who could navigate the system and who could be out and who could be American and find our role here. So that's when you found a lot of the organizations that are now at work here. Right? And then in the 2010s, during the marriage equality movement, Asian and Pacific Islander groups responded, and like the National Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance, kind of got into action because we saw the tremendous amount of homophobia that was coming out of the Asian churches that the mainstream LGBT movement did not respond to. We saw the fact that the Vietnamese queer community was not being allowed to march in the Tet parades to celebrate Lunar New Year just because of who they were. But in the absence of any work, any culturally competent work out of the mainstream LGBT movement, we leveraged the cultural resources in our community, the fact that we could read the ethnic newspapers that were spouting all of this and could respond. So that was kind of the social justice angle that was the complement to the social community building that our groups did. So Aqua, for example, here in DC, started to compete in the Dragon Boat Festival as the gay group in all these straight organizations. And at the time I was a little cynical about it, honestly. I was like, really, that's the community work that we're doing? But to build community, to build representation with our straight allies, while at the same time, other activists were challenging church homophobia, were challenging the ability to march in Chinatowns and Tet parades. It was sort of an all-hands approach to the work, and so it's that work that we continue today.
Thank you for that, Lesley. And as a quick reminder to folks, Ben just touched on, thank you for that, Ben. Ben just touched on some of the topics in terms of historical context. There is, of course, we know there's since 2020, coming into 2021, there's been a mass movement, so to speak, to erase some of these histories that are being spoken about tonight. Let's not forget that if it's not banning books, it's attacking trans persons from the oldest down to the youngest. It's this attempt to just erase the work that has been put forward. And that's not only modern day thing. Remember that as Ben touched on the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Movement, remember that the gutting of that Voting Rights Act started back during the second Obama term. So some of these seeds were being planted in order to, I guess in a sense, confine the communities that we represent, and we're seeing them play out now. And again, just as a reminder as to why we're doing the panel that we have tonight. All right, now, Lesley, in the limited time that we have, tell us about some of the milestones that we can learn about.
The first thing is we've existed for 30 years. Huge milestone. That deserves applause again, please. Yes. So in 30 years, obviously there's a lot that this organization has done, and I can spot out things like we represented ourselves at the first LGBT people of color summit at the White House. We have helped organize international queer and trans conferences. We've been part of national conferences. We created an oral history project. So 100 years from now, if someone Googles South Asian, queer, trans, there is a history that we existed. But when I think about milestones and I think about community, I think about the individuals that make up our community, right? and the impact that we make on them and the impact that they make on the world. And I just want to highlight a few of, because their achievements, their milestones are also ours. We had members, Mala and Vega, they were the first to sue the state of Washington for marriage equality before marriage equality was like a thing, right? We have members who have worked in the Labor Department that's come and educated not only us, but the wider community about what our rights are. And we didn't even know that organizations like QTAPI and Aqua and Apex can actually act on behalf of individual community members to make sure that their rights are respected, right? And if they're violated, they get justice for that. We didn't know about these types of things. We've done lots of issues around like gender justice and just like workshops around that. But back to the individuals, right? Like we have one woman named Shiva who started the first LGBT center in the University of Maryland and also at Georgetown University. Imagine a Tamil Brahmin woman in a Jesuit school, like starting an LGBT center. It's just like wild, right? So when I think about milestones, I think about each and every one of us that make up this community and the work that we're doing that is inspired by Kush DC. And the real milestones, we're never ever going to know, to be honest, because the work that we're doing, each and every one of us, is creating generational change. Things are going to be happening in people's lives that we will never be able to witness, but we were the reason it happened. So I'm going to make one more plug about how important it is to continue this work in all of our organizations. Please get involved. You know, you were talking about like paying attention to what's happening in the world. Like for us, our families are very tied to our countries of origin. Mm-hmm. And if you think about just in India, I'll talk about India, there's some fucked up shit happening to like LGBTQ folks there. Mm-hmm. And the government's response, the government's attitude, the way the government treats our communities there also affects us because our families are paying attention to it. And that shapes their mindset and their worldview about us, right? So there's a lot of work that we need to do, and we need each and every one of you to do it. And I want to say, even if you've never done this kind of work and volunteered or sat on a board, it is okay. I didn't know shit, okay? I showed up and I was just talking to people. There was this one person that told me, I want Kush DC to be like through like a queer, feminist, radical lens. I was like, what the hell is that? Like, I had no idea, right? But I learned because my community taught me. They taught me, and this community is going to teach you. So please get involved. The work is huge. We need you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. In the limited time that we have remaining tonight, I want to touch on two more topics that we shaped for our panelists tonight, and then I'll double back to the one question that I want to ask so we can express that to the audience as we're imparting this knowledge onto the folks here tonight. And of course, get to about 2 or so audience questions as we're wrapping up as well. I would like, let's see if Mohammed, if you could start us off with speaking about the political involvement. Let me see. How is political representation for QTAPI, the QTAPI community, especially how important is the political representation? Let me say that for QTAPI folks, especially that we're in the nation's capital, right? And I know CEP is based in New York, but of course they have representation here in the DMV. And how does that representation benefit this community?
Yeah, this is, I think this is an important question. It's an important election year for our country. I come from government mistrust. A lot of Caribbean people, Afro-Indo-Caribbean people, don't necessarily trust the government. And when you don't trust the government, you don't vote, right? Because you don't believe that the people you are supposed to be elected to serve you are going to serve you. And we see a lot of that happening now, right? Like, particularly immigrant folks, our lives become like bargaining chips what can we protect people? But I think representation is really important. I also say not all representation is good representation.
Yes.
But we can't just think of representation as we see a brown person, we see an Asian person, a queer person, a trans person, then we're all represented. When I think about representation, I like to also ask who's missing. And as organizers, we have to constantly ask that question, right? Like, what does representation actually mean? And if you're not, whether you're talking about gender, you're talking about race, you're talking about sexuality, you're talking about politics, we have to think about how do we bring people who are not at the table. So I think building political power through voting and civic engagement is really important. I think getting involved in doing legislative advocacy, at the heart of democracy is being able to change a bill, being able to enact a bill, being able to push legislative advocacy to pass a bill to protect people. That's one of the things that we were able to do in New York last year. We passed the Safe Haven bill. We have one of our part-timers, her name is Tiffany J. Monroe. She's our transgressors coordinator. She came to us in 2019 as an undocumented asylum seeker. Today she's our transgressors coordinator, and she has been going to Albany every single month, sometimes twice a month, to last year where we were able to pass what is known as the Safe Haven bill. And for any trans, non-binary folks and their families who come to New York State to access gender-affirming care, they will not experience any type of criminalization. So when we think about like what representation looks like, we're also thinking about gender-affirming care, making sure that people have their needs met and being in the bodies that affirms who they are. So representation can mean a lot of different things. But I think as an organizer, we have to sort of think about it, what it means for immigrants, what it means for our Asian communities. One of the things we're currently working on now is teaching Asian American histories in schools. Imagine like all of our stories, imagine all of the folks that came before us that contributed to this country, building this country. Imagine if their stories were to be taught in schools. Think about what that would look like for representation, being in a classroom, learning about your ancestors' history, right? And that's also a form of representation.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for that. We're going to pass the question over to Anj. Anj, how important is political representation for the folks that Apex represents?
To tell you the truth, Apex is not a political. Our viewpoint is not a political viewpoint. We're more of a social group where we focus on the individual and making impact on individuals rather than on a global policy level. What we are is an avenue for people to meet, to form camaraderie, and to find an outlet for the pressures of the world that comes down upon them on a daily basis, and then we have these activities that let's go hiking, and then let's I guess do some self-care, and make new friends and find a support system among the friendships that we form. And from there, I think people can move out into the world and make the most effective changes on the individual level, and whatever they do as far as their confidence in the way they carry themselves in the world, and the way they impact other people. And that's how I guess we do our political change, and the impact we have on the political process is the individual, and then going out into the world and interacting with the world.
Thank you for that, Anj. Thank you for that. Now, you can give it up, clap it up for Anj. Thank you so much for that context for Apex. And in the small amount of time that we have left, Ben, I want you to quickly touch on what advice would you give to someone looking to start a similar organization to Aqua, right? Without, of course, yes, we want folks to join the organizations that are on the panel. Yes, we want folks to come and help to steer and lead these organizations. But I'm tying it right back into the question I definitely said that I would ask. What advice would you give to folks wanting to start something like Aqua and talk about self-care, at least 2 acts of self-care that you have incorporated and folks can incorporate? And we'll allow all the panelists to, Anj touched on it, so we'll allow the other 4 panelists or 3 to talk about it. Go ahead.
Oh goodness. This is the perfect time to start new political community building movements for the AA and HPI community in DC. We are in Chinatown. Chinatown is at a crossroads. Thinking about the next 20 years of what what restaurants will come here, what community organizations will be able to find footholds here. The work that we do in the government needs to be pushed by the community members. And you're beginning to see that, but my advice is this is the perfect moment for a queer analysis of the social justice stuff that's happening in Chinatown right now around housing, around gentrification. So there's that. But self-care, yikes.
Just two?
I will say one with a plug because I do karaoke now. That's like sort of my latest term.
All right. You got the crowd excited. That's good.
And June 4th, I think I'm part of a queer cabaret night performance at Shakers, which is a new gay bar that has a karaoke night. So come and join us. I want to say it's 50 Shades of something. I think that's the name. I forget. But I was yelled at because I did it last year and didn't tell any of my friends. So I'm doing it publicly now. So karaoke.
Well, there you go.
It's very API, and that is the other Heritage Month message that I'm trying to get out there is the role that karaoke plays in AA and HPI culture. I have many, many thoughts.
There you go. Thank you for that. And FYI, as a reminder, the QTAPI week does end on June 4th. That's a week from now, Tuesday. So please, if you'd like to, go attend the event that Ben just spoke about, hit him up. Hit up Coach. Hit up Aqua as well. Let's get the discussion going and some singing going as well. All right. Lesley, you have the mic. A piece of advice you'd give to someone wanting to start something similar to Aqua, all right, besides just joining the organization, right? What advice would you give to them and your 2 acts of self-care? Because I know, and the reason why we're talking about self-care, folks, as a real quick insertion into this conversation, starting this work and then maintaining it, we know those are like a whole... Those are different journeys in and of themselves. And we know that burnout is real. The pandemic taught us a lot. And that's one of the lessons that the pandemic, we can continue to learn from the pandemic, how to take care of ourselves. So how do we do this?
First, let me just say, please run for office. Run for office. It is so important that we run for office, right? And a lot of us feel that we're inadequate and we can't do this. Have you seen Congress? Have you seen it? Just watch C-SPAN, just for like an hour. It is possible for each and every one of you to run for office. Mm-hmm. So please think about that. As far as starting an organization, just do it. Just like it's like the Nike slogan. Mm-hmm. I was part of formally creating an organization called DC Rainbow Parents and Allies. It's an organization that supports the family members that are on the journey of acceptance of their LGBTQ kids. It was a mom that started it with just having living room conversations because she needed support. Aruna, who you know. And we knew that this was a real organization. We just needed to understand what the mechanics were. How do you turn this into a 501c3? How do you do this? And we just asked for help. We put a board together, mm-hmm. and we put like a whole bunch of uncles and aunties, started fundraising. Mm-hmm. We raised $187,000, I think, like in the first year. We created some peer support groups where people would zoom in from places like Indonesia and Saudi Arabia, where their children or their grandchildren, their family members' identity would like cause them to die, right? Like get like assassinated, right? So just do it. Just take an act of action and just do it, because you literally can change the world. I think that we're in a great place for a lot of self-care, and I think that self-care is so important. Whether you're an activist, whether you're an organization, just as an individual existing with your identity in this world today, self-care is really, really important. I'm an artist, so I create art. Yeah, like, I take my camera, I go out and I take pictures, I go look at art, I create art, I go support my other artist friends. And this is a big surprise to me. I never thought I'd be this person. Nature. Like, Rock Creek Park is one of the most beautiful places that I have ever been to. There are parts of it, like Whitehaven Trail, it is completely magical. It's like Harry Potter. Go into nature and completely lose yourself. It is so healing. And I hope that you do have some form of self-care right now. If you don't, try those two things. Create art and go into nature.
Thank you. You can lend the mic to Mohammed for real quickly. Mohammed, I want you to speak on the self-care aspect first, those boundary creations, those self-care aspects first, and then talk about how we could form something like CEP, with the reminder that when it comes down to New York City organizing, CEP is the only 501c3 that does the line of work it does. Clearly, just as Mohammed mentioned at the beginning, it's a big diaspora of queer and trans Caribbean folks, but we're the only organization that does the line of work that we do for community advocacy. So go ahead, Mr. Amin.
I think just do it, sure. I think we have to figure out what's missing. For the past 3 years, we have been living, I like to say we've been living in colliding pandemics, right? Our bodies are being attacked, our health is being attacked, we're losing people, we're experiencing rising rates of anti-Asian hate violence, we're experiencing anti-Blackness, we're experiencing all of these different systematic issues. And whatever we create and however you create it, let it be purposeful, let it have meaning, let it address issues that are still ongoing. And we're not gonna, I'm hoping in our generation we'll solve racism. But there's other things that we can also advocate for. I think healing and cross-racial solidarity is so important. Teaching our history is so important. And just like all the folks in this room, I think about the parents, and Kate, I think when I was listening to you speak earlier, I was just seeing my mom. But I think about Clara, and I think about Aruna, folks that I've met along this journey, and they have taught me so much, just how to be an organizer. So if there's things that needs to be created, it needs to be spaces for our parents. I don't think we have enough space for our parents. And I want to say, think about yourself and how you have come into your queerness and your transness and your identity, and what that journey was like for you, and how in a lot of ways you have to figure out how to accept you. And then sometimes we just dump that in our parents. And we just leave it there for them to just figure it out. And not all of our parents have the tools, not all of our parents have the education background, the exposure. So I want to say we need more spaces to help our parents. And in terms of self-care, I don't know what that is. That's for white people. I'm kidding. Actually, someone told me that about 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, I was trying to figure out how to sustain myself as an organizer. Because as I said, I was exhausted. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was working 9 to 5 every single day, and then I was coming home and I was doing Caribbean Equality Project's work from 6 p.m. until 1 a.m. every night, sending emails, coordinating events, making phone calls. And I got to a point where I was just sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night, and I was like walking around like a zombie. But for folks that are on boards and that are a part of organizations, you know, self-care is also an investment in your own sustainability. Like, it doesn't have to just be about wellness, but self-care can also be about making sure that you do this work for your community, that you're paid for the work that you're doing, and that the investment that you receive, your community will then be able to get it 10 times more. Think about all the services that our community needs: housing, immigration, healthcare, social services, run for office, you know, work with the government, figure out legislation, immigration reform, language access. Think about if we can actually provide all of these social services to our communities. And there's a lot of funding out there, right? There's a lot of government money that's sitting there just waiting to be accessed. There's government folks here, talk to them. And I think that's also self-care. Knowing that the community you belong to and you're a part of, it's work and investment.
Thank you, Mohammed. Y'all can give it up for Mohammed. And we'll allow Kate to end the night. I want you to point out your 2 self-care, you know, acts that you do as a mother, mother of the movement, and then we can talk about KQT and how we can form something similar.
Hello?
Yes.
So for me, I mean, self-care is like meeting people. I love this community. I love to go out, you know, wherever there's an event, and they're just happy hour, you know, just being happy. And I you know, there's something like, you don't know unless you experience this. And, you know, for me, I go to, you know, my company LGBTQ event, or I go to Asian event, Capital Pride. It just makes me so energetic, actually, and give me motivation. And because for me, I was always, you know, activist movement. So politics is very important for me, for Korea, and peace and social justice. But within KQTDC, we don't really talk about too much politics, because it's really, you have to be I mean, you know, to be out there and, you know, to be visible, you know, to get your own right. It's all there. You have to be, you know. So like when Kingston said run for office, and, you know, I really, you know, I go to all these campaign fundraising event whenever they have, even though I don't know, right? Because somebody, oh, this is a Korean guy running for, you know, the delegate in California, Johnny. I never met him, but I show up because I think it's really important, because, you know, for me, he's being so brave, you know, coming out there, and you're saying you're gay, and then but also you're doing grassroots movement, you know, all this progress, you know, your work, and then for the people for all kinds of people. That's very important. So I really, you know, I inspire them. I love them, you know, and I wanna just go there, and that's another, I guess, kind of self-care. And then meeting all these individuals, and also having good time. I love happy hours. So
happy hours and
and karaoke. I like to listen
and
to
Bollywood
people.
dances. She came to our Bollywood parties and danced.
I love dancing.
Excellent.
And, you know, people don't know how joyful I am until, you know, you see me. I go out dance. I just love, you know, I'm almost 65, but I can be like 35.
Get it, mama. Get it.
I thank you. You of course, energize the audience with some of your self-care responses. And real quickly, how could someone, like in 2 sentences, how could someone, you know, form an organization like KQT if you're interested?
It's just, no matter how many people, it's just persistence. I think that's the most important thing, and then also visibility. Because to me, I think I scout more Korean than anybody else for KQTDC because I go to so many places. And then if I think they're Korean, are you Korean? We have a KQTDC group. And then I kind of like pushing mom, like not pushing, but like come to us and have food with us. And food is very important.
Yeah. Emphasis again. Thank you.
And I want to say, I don't know if we're going to have a final thing, but what I want to really say is, really, I love you. I love you so much. And you guys brought me the new world, and you made me so much better person. And I was so judgmental by look, like tattoo and those things.
Of course.
But now like, there's just, it's okay. I want to have one myself with my son. My son has it all over. And also, I want to really reach out to your parents, non-accepting parents, and tell them what they're missing. Tell them what you're missing about your children, how fun they are, and but I cannot find them though. That's the thing. So, but I wanna just tell me if you need help from me. I wanna go meet your parents, and then help them share my story. Like how it just. I don't know.
Thank you. Words can't describe. I want you all to go ahead and keep the applause going. I want you to give it up for the panelists tonight as we wrap up our panel. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much to the panelists and everyone representing all these fine organizations on the panel. I want you all to go ahead and stand. Stand real quickly. Stand. I know everyone stand up real quickly all across the room. I know we've been sitting now for a good little while. I want you all to stretch yourselves. Give yourselves a nice little stretch. And of course, we're at the closing remarks. I want to lead us in a chant real quickly to get us real energized as we end out the night. So I'm gonna say, show me what community looks like, and you're gonna repeat, this is what community look like. So show me what community look like.
This is what community looks like.
Show me what community looks like.
This is what community looks like.
Show me what community looks like.
This is what community.
One more time. Show me what community looks like.
This is what community looks like.
Absolutely. Give yourselves a round of applause. And I just wanted to thank the entire room for being here. Thanks to the panelists that represent the QTAPI coalition that we have here in DC. Yes, go ahead.
Two quick plugs.
Go ahead.
Just because they were talked about. Well, one, they didn't talk about this, is a shameless plug. In the spirit of Racine Pendarvis. Yeah. Tomorrow night, our agency is closing out APIA and HPI Heritage Month with our annual celebration. So we hope that you'll all join us at the Lincoln Theater. It's free. Tomorrow, doors open at 6. My colleague Lavau is here. This is the event that he's helping us lead, so much thanks to him and all the work that he's done. So that's one thing. And the other thing is we talked about grants and money. Both the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs and our office, Moapia, both have grant opportunities that are currently opening for grant applications.
Over $1 million.
Over $1 million.
All right, with a plug.
So if you're an organization that is looking for money, please look at our websites, come talk to us. This is the time. So thank you. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I wanted you to, of course, with our closing remarks, we have on Saturday, June 1st, so coming up, starting Pride Month, of course, we have the Arlington Pride Block Party celebration. So it's happening right across the bridge. You can also scan the QR code for some more details, but also visit our website, QTAPIDC.org, where you see all of the organizations that's represented by the coalition. And these are some of the activations that we have coming up for Pride Month. So June 1st starts us off. We have another one a week from this Saturday, June 8th, with the Capitol Pride Parade. Of course, DC dominates the second Saturday in the month for the Pride celebrations. And of course, Sunday following that Saturday is the Capitol Pride Festival. So you have a whole list of other activations, just like Ben just plugged, that's happening this month. So please get yourself plugged in and be a part of community this month. I want to again thank the mayor's office on API issues and also the office about covering LGBTQ affairs as well. I want to thank the Rainbow History Project, and I want to thank, of course, APEX, Urban Equality Project, Aqua, Kush DC, and of course, am I forgetting somebody? KQT, right? I want to thank them again. Give them a big round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. Stay connected with community, stay plugged in. Just some real quick housekeeping before we depart. We have enough food to feed you for the rest of the week. We have to-go containers for that food. Please take some with you. Share with family as you're leaving the building. Don't leave without a plate to spread to somebody that you know. If you enjoyed the food tonight, definitely give us some feedback as to how we can make this programming better and how we can keep educating the community. So take the food, take the whatever items you have with you, please take them with you. Dump them in the trash, the items that you don't need. And also please just take some food with you as you're going. And greet somebody, exchange your name, say hi, say happy Pride, say happy AAPNHI month, and continue to celebrate yourselves. We thank you so much for coming out, and I'm Theo Brown. I've been your moderator and host for tonight. Thank you to my team, Heejun Choi and Jamie Ballesteros. There you go. And of course, Anch is right there. Thank Anch as well. Just give it up for everybody that's been a part of this movement.